Hey guys, Xaryu here, and today I want to walk you guys through Shadow Priest in 8.0. I've done all my other class guides that I've been playing. Shadow Priest is the last one that you guys have been asking for. I see the comments, where's the Shadow Priest guide? Where's the Shadow Priest guide? Here it is. Xaryu's going back Shadow for a little bit. I've been doing some testing, doing some messing around and some playing. And I'm going to give you guys a couple different builds, kind of how I talked about in my last guide, my Rogue guide, for different situations, right? So there's not just like, for pretty much any spec, there's not just one spec that's going to be the best, right? It's going to be kind of dependent on the situation. Look, I decided to film on this rock, and this guy kind of came up next to me. Anyway, for this first row here, actually, TLDR, if you don't watch the whole video, here's a spec that I've just basically been running with. If you have like 14 seconds and you got to catch the train and you're watching it on your way to work or something, then go with this spec. Good luck, have fun. But if you guys want to know why I chose this spec and when to change, keep watching. So, Fortress of the Mind, Shadowy Insight, Shadow Word Void. All right. Haven't done too much testing actually in this specific row. Shadowy Insight is just incredible for adding not only burst, but sustain damage, right? So before burst, you can pool instant Mind Blast, and then if, say, you're playing RPS, you can, slam the Mind Blast into a kidney target, instant cast, it can't be stopped. That's incredible. However, also, it's not just burst. You can use it for sustain to cast the instant Mind Blast while being trained without having the chance of getting kicked. So in PvP, this talent is hard to beat. Shadow Word Void replaces Mind Blast. Okay, does slightly more damage, generates slightly more insanity, has 2 charges. Not so great considering you can't really cast Mind Blast on cooldown anyway in PvP, whereas Shadowy Insight gives you the ability to do so. And then Fortress of Mind, once again, it's like you're not Mind Flaying too much in PvP, you're not Mind Blasting too much in PvP, because, like I said repeatedly, it's hard to cast things that have a cast bar, because you're going to get kicked if you're being trained by double melee, which Shadow Priests a lot of times are. If you're fighting Windwalker or DK, they're going to be training you. If you're fighting jungle, they're going to be training you. You're fighting a lot of compositions, you're going to get trained. That's just how Shadow Priests are, so you want to have that in mind when you're building a spec of sometimes I can't cast very often, right? So Shadowy Insight's the way to go. For the second row, this is a one that's going to depend. So Sand Lane reduces the cooldown of Vampiric Embrace by 45 seconds and increases its healing done by 25%. That's good, right? Now we have an extra defensive cooldown. I kind of like the idea of this. This is a different Sand Lane than we've seen in previous expansions. However, Body and Soul, granting you that 40% additional movement speed, is pretty nice as well to actually sprint and get a fear off of, say, a sap or off of a kidney shot. So if you're playing a CC burst comp, such as God comp, Frost Mage Shadow Priest, or RPS, Rogue Shadow Priest, I think Body and Soul is great. Now, if you're playing Shadow Priest Moonkin, Shadow Priest Destrolock, Shadow Priest Affliction Warlock, kind of a dampener slow cleaver, Shadow Priest Feral, Sand Lane is going to give you that extra defensive cooldown. So this is a judgment call. In RBGs, Sand Lane. In setup comps, Body and Soul. In consistent 3s comps, Sand Lane. In 2v2 a lot of the times, Sand Lane. So this is going to be a judgment call here. Okay, for this next row, Twist of Fate, Misery, Dark Void. Don't think Dark Void is quite worth it for just like the 1.7 second cast, a 30-second cooldown. Doesn't seem quite worth it. This is probably like a Mythic plus talent, something like that, but not in PvP, all right? Don't even think in RPGs this would be worth. Almost certainly wouldn't. Misery, insanely high value, and I would take it almost every single time because you're just getting more globals. Every time you VT, you're getting that free Shadow Word Pain, which means the Shadow Word Pains, you don't have to spend a global on it, so think about it as like a ton of passive haste. You can think about it as just getting more globals to do other things. Whatever you want to think about it is very, very effective talent. Almost every time. Now, Twist of Fate, I think in some circumstances can be okay. And what immediately comes to mind is like a 2v2 situation where you can't cast because the other team is lining you, shearing you, grounding totem. So maybe into like Resto Shaman Affliction Warlock or Ellie Shaman Resto Druid. Guess what? If they're good, they're not going to let you cast a single Vampiric Touch. They're going to line of sight. They're going to make it impossible. So if you can't cast many Vampiric Touches, Misery gets no value because you're just going to use Shadow Word Pain, Mind Blast, which is fine. Shadow Word Pain, Mind Blast, Mind Bender, Void Eruption, Void Bolts, things like that to do damage, which is good. You can still do damage without Vampiric Touch. It's okay, even with Mind Flay, and the instant cast Mind Blast too, so actually everything except VT. But it just means you don't get value out of Misery. So that is the circumstance you'd want to take Twist of Fate. If you can't cast specifically against another caster in 2s. Okay, so against maybe an Ellie Shaman in 2s or something that's just going to stop all of your damage. Now, I would pretty much auto-lock in Misery every time unless you're having trouble getting those Vampiric Touches onto a target in 3s or 2s where they're not letting you cast. Then the next game you fight them to be like, okay, I'm going to switch to Twist. Very, very specific use case here. All right, Psychic Core, Mind Bomb, last word. Let's cut to the chase. Psychic Core here, 4-second stun, 45-second cooldown, incredible. Last word, reducing the cooldown of silence, but just having the silence on the 45 and then the Psychic Core on 45 means you can pair them, right? You can Psychic Core one, silence another. Psychic Core DPS, silence a healer, burst. That's so much more valuable than just silencing every 30. That pair is so powerful. And the same thing with Mind Bomb. It's just a 2-second delay, so it's just a little bit slower, and it replaces Psychic Scream. Well, I didn't even notice that. So even if it didn't replace Psychic Scream, Mind Bomb would be worse, but it does, so Mind Bomb's way worse. So Psychic Core is pretty much the pick here. Can't really see it changing for anything. Maybe an RPS, now that I think about it. If you're playing with a Sub-Rogue, you have a lot of stuns already, so you can go with Last Word instead if you're playing with a Sub-Rogue who's already going to take care of the stuns. Actually, that is probably good. So with a class with a lot of stuns, Last Word might be okay. But in most comps, Shadow Priest, Warlock, Shadow Priest, Mage, Shadow Priest, Boomy, Psychic Core is going to be the way to go. Even in RBG is most likely the way to go here. So good. So so far our specs looking pretty solid. Shadow Word Death I think is the play in most circumstances always. Like RPS, if you're doing any type of burst kill, it's going to help you kill a target. And in some type of only DPS matters situation, like in an RBG, I would go Auspicious Spirits. It's going to give you more DPS. It's going to give you more spread pressure. You're going to have less finishing potential, but you have 7 other DPS or 6 other DPS in the RBG with you to help you kill things. So in an RBG, if you only care about DPS, Auspicious Spirits. In 3s, if you're playing Affliction Warlock Shadow Priest, well, even in that case, you kind of want something to finish, so probably Shadow Word Death there. But if you're playing Boomkin Shadow Priest, where the Boomkin can maybe help you finish, and you just want more DPS, Auspicious Spirits is going to give you more DPS, right? Shadow Word Death is going to give you less DPS, but more killing potential. Much better in Burst comps, much better in God comp, much better in Shadow Priest Rogue. This guy wants to say hi. We'll slash wave to him. Hey there, Pale Orc. Welcome to YouTube. Shadow Crash doesn't seem like it does quite enough damage to warrant it. However, I could see it working in some setup burst comps over Shadow Word Death. So Shadow Word Death does more damage, right? These tooltips are actually semi-correct now. So 1924 shadow damage versus 2886 shadow damage. Shadow Word Death has 2 charges, so you might just be like, okay, Shadow Crash is less damage, longer cooldown, 1 charge. Like, why would you ever want to play Shadow Crash? And I guess the general idea behind Shadow Crash is that you don't have to have the player under 20%, so you can burst them from higher life. And I could actually seeing that maybe being okay in some type of God comp situation or RPS, like only the burst comps, never with double DPS, probably not in RBGs. But I think Shadow Word Death's probably more of a just a safer pick. I also do want to mention I talked to WizK. WizK, if you guys don't know him, is Shadow Priest, highest rated Shadow Priest in North America for the last many seasons, and BlizzCon NA competitor. All right, so he was just in Poland competing. He's an incredibly experienced Shadow Priest, and I talked to him about a lot of these picks and kind of picked his brain. So one, shout out to him for helping me kind of make this guide, because I've been doing some testing myself, but he kind of pointed me in the right direction with a lot of these talents. So thumbs up on that one. Thanks, Wiz, if you're watching the video. But yeah, Shadow Word Death. This next one, Lingering Insanity, doesn't seem like it gives the same amount of value that it used to. It seems like the Void Forms are shorter, plus you can get back into your Void Forms much quicker with this next talent I'm about to talk about. Doesn't seem like the haste bonus is quite worth it. Void Torrent, 45-second cooldown, helps you with some burst, but Mindbender, guys, is doing so much damage right now. 1 minute cooldown, helps you burst, physical damage goes through things like Cloak of Shadows, or if someone, pops a spell immunity, Mindbender still goes through that. I think it's physical. I think it goes through Cloak. Maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I think Mindbender's physical damage, but regardless, very, very high burst talent here. I kind of like this in most of the situations here. I could see Lingering Insanity having a use case in RBGs paired with like Auspicious Spirits. You don't get any burst, you don't get any killing potential, but your actual DPS output is going to be much higher with a build like this if you can just sit back and free cast. Now this is going to be much higher burst, much higher killing potential in a comp like God Comp, Shadow Priest Rogue, something like that. So keep that in mind. But Mindbender doing so much damage right now. Now for this last row, it's actually very interesting. I was playing with Legacy of the Void, and I was very stubborn. I was like, this talent owns, can get in more Void Eruptions, I love this talent, blah, blah, blah. But since you have Void Origins and your Void Eruptions instant cast already, which we'll talk about in a second, you don't get the cast time reduced benefit from Legacy of the Void. So all you're getting is that you can use that 60 or higher Insanity. Whereas Dark Ascension makes it so you can get into Void form instantly on a 1 minute cooldown. So we did some math, we mapped it out, we did some testing, we tested it out. And on average, Dark Ascension is giving you just more opportunities to get into that Void form, more opportunities to get those Void Bolts, get the Insanity generation, and causing that initial Void energy damage that Void Eruption causes. It's the same thing, 3578 Shadow damage for Void Eruption, 3578 Shadow damage to Dark Ascension. So you can use Dark Ascension while you're already in Void form if you want to do extra burst. So it's another instant cast burst if you need it to finish off a target. Or you can use Dark Ascension to hop back into Void form. So you Void Erupt, it expires, you Dark Ascension, go right back into Void form. Very cool talent. Doubles the skill cap of Priest, makes it way harder to combo correctly, but I love that. I love that it makes the class a little more complex, a little more difficult. Just quick side note, a lot of people in PvE seem to be very upset about Shadow Priest's design right now. I have to just put this out here and say, me personally, in PvP, I could not be more excited for Shadow Priest right now. All right, there's a lot of people in the comments like, well, yeah, for Shadow in PvE, the design looks so bad. But guys, I'm telling you, for PvP, this is 12 out of 10, all right? This is incredible. This is super, super good. We have Psychic Horror back, Life Grip back, Powered Fortitude back. We get a new spell to get into more Void forms. This is like the best design that I've ever seen for Shadow Priest. It's incredible for PvP. Now for PvE, I don't PvE, so I don't know. All right, but a lot of people seem to be very upset for PvE. So I'm sorry, PvEers, but we PvP here, so it's all good. It's all good in the hood. But I think in 8.1, they're actually going to redesign a lot of this stuff anyway. But anyway, Gladiators Medallion, pretty much the pick. If you're pairing it with Life Swap, if you're pairing it with Silence, if you're pairing it to get out of a bomb, it's hard to play Adaptation Relentless ever as a Shadow Priest. Gladiators Medallion, 99.9, all right, of the time. Void Origins, lock it in. Not having to cast Void Eruptions, incredibly OP in PvP, incredibly needed to be able to burst on demand, to make your goes less like scripted. It's not like, hey guys, I'm popping Void Eruption, I'm about to do a ton of damage here. You know, if you have the cast, it kind of just gives away that you're about to burst. The instant cast comes quicker, comes at more of a surprise, better. All right, lock it in. Driven to Madness, very good if there's any type of attack that's going to grant you Insanity. As far as I know, being attacked will grant you 9 Insanity is from melee attacks, right? Like a physical attack. A Mindbender would proc it. Any type of stab would proc it. Anything like that would proc it. Tons of Insanity generation allows you to get into your Void forms quicker, your Dark Ascensions quicker. They fade quick, but then you can just get back into them very fast. I love this talent. And then Psyfiend for the extra little burst during your Psychic Horror Silence. By the way, I always say disarm. Psychic Horror is not a disarm anymore. It's just a stun, which is fine. But if you hear me say disarm, it's usually referring to Psychic Horror, even though it doesn't disarm. And Psyfiend causes Psyflay, which reduces healing received by 50%. So it's that Mortal Strike effect as well. Does damage, does good damage, and applies that Mortal Strike effect. Major thing you want to keep in mind is it has 1 life. So if you hit the Psyfiend, it's going to die. That means you want to cover your Psyfiend with things like Stun and Silence to make it so Psyfiend doesn't just be useless. Now, other picks here, I can see Void Shift if it's a very quick game and you have to have that extra defensive cooldown to keep a healer alive. Totally understandable in a 3v3 situation. Pure Shadow, if you're dying very quick and you're not getting much value out of Psyfiend, I can also understand that. And I have been doing some testing with Shadow Mania against sub-rogues in 2s specifically, which I'm going to show you a game here in a second, actually. But while Stun, Fear, or Silenced, your Void Form Insanity doesn't stop. So essentially, in 2s, what an Assassination Rogue will do is wait till you go into Void Form, and they'll kidney you on your Void Form expires, and you're like, no, all my damage gone. This is the worst day ever. Shadow Mania prevents that from happening. I love it, love it, love it in that type of situation. So I could see this actually being a very standard build, Shadow Mania driven to Madness Void Origins against something like TSG or like Double Melee, where they're just trying to stun you on your Void Form and they're training you. A spec like this, you're going to be in Void Form the whole game against them, which is great, right? Hallucinations, it's good. I just don't know if there's room for it. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of just briefly talk about, just as more of a theory crafting discussion with you guys, is Edge of Insanity. While at 100 Insanity and not in Void Form, you take 20% less damage. Okay, this is going to make you very tanky. However, don't play it right now. If you're watching this video, it's 7:28:18 right now, alright? If you're watching this video tomorrow when it goes live, this talent is bugged. It's going to make you take 20% more damage. Blizzard will probably fix this soon, alright, I'm assuming, but don't play with it right now. But once it's fixed and it makes you actually take 20% less damage, I think there might be a build changing up some of your talents here as well, where you just don't really go into Void Form that much, and you kind of just stay outside of Void Form at 100 Insanity and take less damage against stuff that you're just being trained against, like that TSG, like that maybe jungle, okay? If you're just dying, this might be the play. Now, I haven't tested the metagame. I haven't tested how, how things are really going to play out, how quick things are going to die, etc. It could be good. It could not be good. I just wanted to bring it up for the future. I haven't done too much playing with it. Well, one, it's bugged, so I can't even test it myself. But I'm just thinking maybe against Double Melee that could work. But generally, this is a spec that I've really been enjoying. If there's no stuns or things that I'm afraid of getting me out of Void Form, I've been playing with the Psyfiend instead. But yeah, that's pretty much a Shadow Priest breakdown, guys, for all the different talents, use cases, RBGs, 2s, 3s, whatever. This is the go-to build, though, like I said, that if I'm just playing, this is what I play with. But let's hop into some gameplay of Shadow Priest in 8.0. Alright, guys, here I'm playing some 2v2. I'm playing some Shadow Priest Resto Druid with Dino. And just before this game starts, I've been getting a lot of questions about my user interface. I've been messing around with things. It's a new expansion. I'm testing out different ways to make my UI look. When I'm done and my UI is in its final form, I will go ahead and do a Xaryu UI video that you guys can download my UI. I can explain why I chose the UI that I did, right? But I am liking my UI a lot. I think it's looking nice, but it has some work still to get done. But anyway, we're fighting an Assassination Rogue, and if you guys have been playing on the 8.0 patch, you know that Assassination Rogues are bonkers right now, alright? So this is a hard matchup. Shadow Priest 1 do not belong in 2s, alright? 2, Assassination Rogues do belong in 2s. But this is very hard, but Dino, if you guys didn't know, is like one of the highest ranked 2v2 players in North America. Very, very solid. I was looking at here, I was actually theory crafting Shadow Mania. I was like, wait, Shadow Mania could probably be really good. Like mid-game, I was thinking about that. So I wasn't Shadow Mania in this game, but I was like, it would be great if I could. I was like reading all the talents while that Cyclone was going on. I was like, that would probably be great, because I was live streaming at the time as well. But generally, guys, the play style. You're dotting up one target. You're dotting up another target. You're getting the double damage. You're bursting with Mindbender. You're bursting with Psychic Horror. You're bursting with Silence. I'm going to fast forward this video in a second here because it goes very, very long. Shadow Priest kill potential is very, very low, right? But that's kind of just how they are. That's why a lot of the times I don't play it in 2s that much, because they're kind of that rock class that you want to pair it with something like a rogue in 3s to help you kill, or a mage in 3s to help you kill, get a little bit extra CC, get a little extra burst on your side, and then Shadow Priests are all of a sudden that class that can rot, that can support, that can also burst a little bit, and then, like, it's a very, very fun class, and that's why I'm very excited for it, because you have all of these tools. But without that extra little bit of CC and without that extra little bit of burst, you kind of have a game like this, where the games just take a while. Still good, still viable, it just takes a little bit longer than you might be used to. So we're going to fast forward through this video just a little bit. I guess the main thing is, when Dino gets in trouble, you could throw a shield up onto him, like that. I can light grip him, throw a power word shield, just like you saw there. going for some cross CC, going for the cross damage. That's what's nice about Shadow Priest, though. You have these support options. You have stuns, you have silences, you have grips, you have off heals, you have off shields, things like that, right? So you can always help your teammate in times of need. That's what I love about playing a class like Shadow Priest or even my Ellie Shaman, is that you can really have an impact on the game. If anyone dies, it's like, well, I could have done this, I could have done that, for supporting your team. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit more, just doing the same type of thing, spreading the pressure, getting the damage out, forcing their defensive cooldowns, waiting till dampening goes a little bit higher, right? Once dampening is higher and higher and higher, then we can actually do more and more effective damage. I can purge as well. That's very nice about Disc Priest as well. You can purge the power word shields, the powered fortitudes, continue to spread the pressure, continue to spread the damage. Once he has no Cloak of Shadows, no Trinket, we can do one big setup, and then boom. I think this is one of the games still where I was playing Dark Ascension, not for the first time, but I was playing Dark Ascension and I was still trying to get used to it, right? I was still just like, I wonder how is this supposed to be played, if it's going to be good. I'm trying to figure out the best cases for it. And then as I was playing it with more and more of the talent, I was like, oh my gosh, this talent's awesome. I'm in void form half of this game, doing so much damage once you start timing it, better and better. But that takes time, right? And like that's one of the things that I've been talking about on my live stream a lot, is that a lot of people are like, oh, how are you Gladiator on this and rank 1 on that and Gladiator on that? Guys, I've been playing this game for 12 years, all right? I've put a lot of hours into it, and it just takes a lot of time, takes a lot of practice, and that's just kind of the process that you should expect, right? Jumping into a game and getting Gladiator on your first season or whatever is not quite realistic. It's not quite how it works, and I want you guys to know that, right? I was a noob for a very long time. I was duelist for a long time. I wasn't rank 1 for a long time, but eventually these things came with enough practice and the right mindset, partners, compositions, all these things kind of fell into place. But jumping back into this game, the enemy team's playing Dark Archangel. They did a big burst, threw that off shield onto Dino, make sure everything's fine, throw out the rebuffs, throw out some more damage, and the game kind of continues, right? So as we fast forward through a little bit more, we're going to see the same type of thing, something that just looking at my gameplay, I was going to say I could purge more, and then I do. Xaryu's thumbs up. Purge, by the way, takes about 20% of your mana. You have 5 purges before you're out of mana, and so you can't just spam it infinitely, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Also, another side note that I just remembered right now is that Mass Dispel is also on a 45-second cooldown, whereas before, I think it was like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, so that's a pretty big nerf to Mass Dispel. Now, I don't actually mind it. I don't mind Master Spell having a longer cooldown. The main thing is, like, if a mage ice blocks, and then ice blocks right after hypothermia is over, there'll be a 15-second window where you can't MD it, which I actually don't mind that much. A Pally really only has 1 bubble. Master Spelling defensively once every 45 is probably fine anyway. I think it's a fine change, really. It does cost quite a bit of mana as well, so that's that. But as you see, we're about 60% dampening now. Game's still continuing. We have a lot more pressure. They're both about 50% life. We're both full. We kind of have that pressure upper hand. They, however, have the burst upper hand. The next Vendetta, the next Kidney Shot can get very scary, and that's what we want to keep in mind. With the life grips, with the shields, with the mind controls, fears, off heals, and then silence stun combos. This is the combo that I was talking about, guys, by the way, with the horror and the silence. Get that cross CC, get the burst, and this is how you kind of jump into your kills, right? Rogue's all of a sudden very low. Priest couldn't heal him. My thought keeps ticking. My Mindbender's hitting. I can Shadow Word Death very soon, and that's kind of how you hop into it. Throw out the Shadow Word Death, force out the Rogue's Cloak of Shadows, and it's once, the game kind of continues, and then once we have another burst window with another stun silence combo, that's what we're kind of jumping into. Now Rogue's getting low, he's running, and there's kind of a point of no return with Shadow Priest, where once you get enough pressure rolling, you can just keep snowballing with that pressure. They're both 50%. It's hard for them to come back. Here's the next Mind Bomb silence. Rogue's getting very low. The instant Mind Blast comes out. The Dark Archangel, they try to counter pressure. Mind Flay's coming out, dampening 65%. Rogue's getting so low here. Very hard for me to actually finish, though, as I was talking about earlier, because they can just keep running. But we do get the Shadow Word Death, the instant Mind Blast, and they eventually go down with that Mindbender. That's that Mindbender damage I'm talking about. Super, super powerful there. 2400-ish MMR. Overall damage, this is what I was talking about, guys, as far as just tuning is not there yet. Shadow Priest I should be doing more damage than an Assassination Rogue, because he's single target. I'm multi-dotting, right? In reality, we'd want to see these numbers flipped, where the Assassin Rogue has more burst and less overall damage, and the Shadow Priest has more overall damage with less burst. Tuning changes will come, I'm sure. Shadow Priests are a little bit weak, but the playstyle's looking great, so I can't wait for tuning to come in, buff up Shadow Priests a little bit, maybe nerf Assassination Rogues a little bit. This will be a little bit more fair. But anyways, really enjoying my Shadow Priest regardless. Guys, if you enjoyed this Shadow Priest breakdown, make sure to give the video a big thumbs up. One of my favorite classes, definitely an 8.0. Make sure to thumbs the video down if you didn't like it. Talk to me in the comments about what you guys want to see next. This video's taken a while, so don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.